Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Giant Take podcast. My name is Josh, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host Alex, and we are here for the 2025 season to recap the 21-6 New York Giants loss to the Washington Commanders. And Alex's text that he sent me right after this game summed up everything perfectly. He said, "I can't do this for another season." And he's exactly right, because this New York Giants game today and how they played signifies what we've watched, and we'll get into why. But in short, with the defense and how successful they were until they couldn't be successful anymore because of how often, or I guess not often, the Giants offense was on the field, poor quarterback play, and offensive line issues. And it's those three things that we've seen recurring with different players. But over the past 6 seasons, Alex, by the way, this is the sixth season: 2020, 2021, 22, 23, 24, 25. Wait, yes, sixth season, right? That we're doing this podcast. I think I can count. And
Yeah.
And it's the same issues. How are you doing after the Giants, by the way, go 1 week of the NFL season, the first week that is, without scoring a touchdown?
Yeah, and it's what, three consecutive years now, I want to say. It's just ridiculous, to be completely honest, how consistently bad they've been. Um yeah, I mean there was a lot of positives. Like, the defense had its bright spots, but the offense was so uninspiring, and it just felt like a team that was not prepared and was not on the same page, to be completely honest. Not with the penalties, not with turnovers necessarily, but just in the way they planned for the game and their game plan. It just seemed like some bad coaching decisions, the guys not executing their roles, and mainly the offensive line just falling completely apart. But yeah, not a fun watch, and not a fun first Sunday of the NFL season, that's for sure.
No, absolutely not. And let's get into it. Normally we split it up offense, defense. So we'll do that kind of right now and just get into the offense. And Alex, I kind of prepped you on this. I said I had a lot to say on this Giants offense. So please butt in at any time with your thoughts as well. But I'm just going to kind of go. I mean, the O-line looked atrocious. Let's just start out there. And we have, again, seen this so many times going back to years ago with like Eric Flowers, but even just down the line as time has gone on to right now where we are, and having the problems with the offensive line. No Andrew Thomas today. I guess we kind of expected that, still recovering from injury. James Hudson was in a spot, and we saw it all preseason long. He was getting penalties against him, and Brian Daboll even taking him out of plays today. There was at least one that I remember. We're recording this, by the way, at 7:30, so it's been a few hours after the game, so going on recollection without a rewatch yet. That is what I remember from James Hudson. He at least had one penalty against him. Going to the quarterback position, actually, Alex, start with there. All offensive line. I'll go
Yeah.
slowly. Yeah, I mean, any kind of just overall thoughts on the O line that you want to touch on?
I do think that, like, when Andrew Thomas doesn't play, the rest of the unit suffers significantly as well. And James Hudson wasn't great, but he wasn't the worst. The real culprit, I mean, John Michael Schmitz is awful. He is not a good center, and I would probably venture to say he's the worst center in the NFL right now, worst starting center. Greg Van Roten, Runyon, I mean, those guys, they're okay. And so you've got the combo in that interior with two okay guys with just an absolute liability with JMS. And then you've got one tackle who's now a backup swing tackle, and James Hudson, who's in there. And then you've got Illuminor, who was obviously pretty solid. But it's just a unit there's a lack of both quality and, honestly, experience in certain aspects as well. And you just don't have any elite guys on that line, and they don't work together well either. And because of that, Russell Wilson had milliseconds, it felt like, to throw most of the time, or the run game was pretty much ineffective. We thought it was going to be vastly improved this year. We thought the depth was better. But there was one spot the Giants did not focus any depth on. They focused on the tackle spot. They focused a little bit on the guard spot, but the center spot, they did not put any effort into. And I think that could haunt them throughout this season if JMS puts up another just awful performance like this, where it felt like he was genuinely getting beat every single snap.
And the guy that really, felt the most because of that, because when you don't have an offensive line, you don't give your quarterback time to throw. And that was a pivotal reason why Russell Wilson had a poor day today. He went 17 for 37, 168 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, had no time. And he's not what he used to be, Alex, where he was when he grew up, and he was our favorite kind of non-Giants player that we watched growing up, scrambling all over the place, being one of the mobile quarterbacks that we always watched in the 2010s. And he just doesn't have that same ability, where if that O-line, whether it's off the edge or on those interior defensive tackles, crashes within 3 to 5 seconds, he does not have that speed anymore to rush outside the numbers and make a throw on the sideline. He just doesn't. It just, he's in his 30s now. He's older, and he just doesn't have that same speed anymore to kind of evade that pressure when it comes in. So it's unfortunate, because then that ended up being in, with sacks, overthrows, underthrows, throws just getting thrown out of bounds just to try and get rid of the ball and not take a sack. And another guy that suffered because of that was Malik Nabers. That guy today made some catches that I just continues to show me how good of a wide receiver Malik Nabers is. I remember one of them where it was to gain a first down. It was one-on-one. The ball was just thrown up, and it was literally just a 50-50, and he had to jump up and extend and try and reach his legs as high as he could to make that play and make that catch, and he did for a first down. And then another play that was on a slot fade, where it's a one-on-one again with Nabers, ball completely underthrown. He does a great job, Nabers does, to adjust, and he makes that catch. And Wilson, by the way, that was a roughing the passer. He got freaking drilled because a linebacker blitz came right up the middle, and no one was blocking that linebacker. And he came right home, and he freaking crushed Russell Wilson on that play. But Malik, he was able to get rid of the ball, Wilson was, and Nabers was able to make the catch. But, it all kind of like bounces down the line, right? It's like, because of no line, then you can't run the ball outside. You can't run the ball inside because, like you said, Alex, the center position was horrendous today. And then Russell Wilson has no time in the pocket, so you can't throw the ball. So then you just have no offense. That's literally what no offense is. And that all starts when you have a bad O-line. Tyrone Tracy and Cam Scatterbu, we didn't really see like kind of the 1-2 punch that we're like expecting from them this season. Tracy, 10 carries, only 24 yards. And Scatterbu, when he ran the ball twice, he got stuffed. One of those runs, which is something I want to talk about later, but it was on the drive where the Giants had like 7 plays within the Washington 10-yard line, started at the 1, and they still didn't score. He did bounce off some tackles, though, when he caught the ball twice. But not a lot of plays for the rookie in Scatterbu. I'm just going to do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I mean, all I was going to say is I think Scatterbu, he was very good in pass protection, which was something that we saw a little bit on his tape from college, but nowhere near to the extent. I think he's definitely built well for it with his upper body strength, but also definitely has, improved heavily with that in training camp. So at least that was something I noticed on the positive spectrum of things. But like you were saying, I mean, Russell Wilson he had no time, but on the plays he did have some time, there was some very, very inaccurate throws, especially further down the field. And I think that's a very big issue. And we'll talk more about that later, I'm sure, kind of in the what do we do from here kind of thing. And I'm sure Jackson Dart's name won't be hiding for much longer, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I think that in the times, very rarely, but in the times that were available for Russell Wilson, then he just didn't capitalize. And yeah, he did not look good. Again, I will still blame the offensive line, though, for how he did today. And Brian Dable said it after the game as well. You know, he said this one's not on Russ. And I completely agree. But yes, sorry, going down because I want to make sure I run through them all and get through them in a good amount of time. That's not, wasting anyone's time of my bullet pointed list here. Jalen Hyatt got benched for the undrafted rookie Beau Collins today. Darius Slayton, no targets, no catches. So not even involving the wide receivers. I'm questioning why an undrafted rookie gets placed over a guy who was picked in the higher rounds just a couple of years ago of the NFL draft by the Giants, but then gets benched for this new guy. I can understand if Beau Collins has a hell of a preseason, and he did, but still to already be placed over Hyatt, where it's like we want this guy to succeed at the NFL level, and the only way to help him do that is to give him more time starting in the NFL, and you're not doing that. I question that reasoning. Wan'Dale Robinson, to me, was the player of the game. Malik Neighbors had more catches, or had one less catch, but 5 more yards than him or something like that. I think Malik Neighbors was like 5 catches for 71 yards. Wan'Dale's was 6 catches for 55 yards. On Russell Wilson, one of his overthrows, Wan'Dale Robinson was open. He had a run and dive, extend forward, make a diving play like an outfielder in baseball, and catch one of those balls from Russell Wilson. So I thought he did a great job there. And I thought he picked up a couple crucial kind of first downs to keep drives going. So he's my player of the game. Theo Johnson at tight end. I mean, showing shades of Evan Ingram when he was on the New York Giants, dropped 2 or 3 balls today. That looked terrible. One of those being a dump off in the backfield, looked to be sort of a screen pass. Wilson, not the best throw, but throws it at his waist. He had a leading down a little bit to catch it. Johnson did. Goes in right out of his freaking hands. Unacceptable. You're wide open. The play is designed for you. The throw isn't perfect. I understand that. It's not in your chest. It's in your waist, though. It's not in your knees. It's not at your feet. You have to catch the ball. You're an NFL tight end. And then that brings me to the drive where the Giants, I think it was in the second quarter, had a 16-play drive for 76 yards, and it ended in a field goal. Inexplicable. The team gets into the red zone. And not only gets into the red zone, they get within the Washington 10. They have a 1st and goal. They run a whole set of plays. On the 3rd and goal, they get a penalty, which extends them to the 1-yard marker of Washington. They had, including the field goal, so I guess 6 plays without the field goal. But in total, 7 plays within Washington's 10. And they didn't score a touchdown. They scrambled. This is when they had it at the 1. They scrambled out left with Russell Wilson faking a handoff, looking for like an offensive lineman trick play. Doesn't work. It's completely shut down. He throws it out the back of the end zone, looking for like Marcus Bowe in the back of the end zone. So already Mike Kafka failed play. Fine. Scatterboo, supposed to be our power back, gets absolutely stuffed. We're knocked back to the 2 or 3. And then Wilson looking for an option. No one open. We have no red zone offense. It's like this team didn't even practice it in training camp because no one's open, can't find anyone, and he throws it away. Incomplete pass. Wan'Dale Robinson can't find the ball. Theo Johnson can't find the ball. And you saw that at the end of the game, too, when the Giants turned it over on downs. No red zone offense. Had the ball in the red zone. They were driving, didn't score. So that was that. But then what I don't understand is these decisions now. So you had that freaking horrendous 16-play drive where you can't score. You're now driving. This is now in the 4th quarter. Wilson and the Giants have a 4th and 4. They're down by 8. It's 14-6. The ball is literally right at midfield at the 50. 12 minutes left, and they decide to punt. Now, I don't know what the analytics and the percentages at that point say, but I feel like if there's any time to go for it, when you're down by single digits, it's a 4th and 4, you're at midfield. Why is that the one that you don't go for? We went for a 4th and 1 at our own 30, but we don't go for a 4th and 4 at midfield with 12 minutes left, and you punt that, and right down the field, Washington goes. They extend it, 2-possession drive, and then you're looking with 6 minutes now instead of the 12 that you had on the clock to not only score one, but a touchdown, the onside kick or a defensive stop, get the ball back again, score another touchdown. Why not just go for it there? If you get it, then you have a chance of tying the game up and plenty of time to do it. If you don't, then okay, they have the ball at midfield, but again, plenty of time. Did that decision made no sense to me. And because I'm not going to say like, I don't know what they would have done if they didn't get it on the 4th and 4, if they went for it, but they didn't even go for it. They punted the ball, and then Washington went right down the field and capped the game off with that Deebo Samuel touchdown. And that was it.
And I would also say they were driving down the field on that drive too. That was probably the best offensive drive of the whole game up until that 4th down, in the way they were moving the ball, the diversity of the play calling. I believe even that one was probably the longest run of the game. I believe it was like a 9-yard run from Devin Singletary, or maybe it was Tyrone Tracy. But, they were moving the ball better. It felt like the momentum was shifting towards the Giants, and they didn't take advantage of it whatsoever. And the analytics, Josh, I do believe were in favor of going for it. I think it was a 55-45 kind of split. So it wasn't necessarily overwhelming one way or the other, but analytics were still in favor of doing that. And Dable, I guess, not going with the analytics like he usually does, but very confusing decision. I completely agree with you, especially considering the momentum factor, which obviously doesn't even factor into the analytics whatsoever, but something that you also have to think about. And that was the end of the game right there when they punted the ball away. So very frustrating.
Absolutely.
I feel like I've said that phrase 300 times, but
and then at that point,
it takes it out of you.
At that point, when they had the ball, I knew they weren't coming back, of course. I mean, you're working with 6 to 8 minutes and 2 touchdowns you have to get, and the offense had been lackluster
It's Jaden Daniels,
at that point. But no, I was talking about when we had the ball back, Alex, after they scored with Deebo.
Oh, yeah.
The game I knew was over, 2 touchdowns, 6 to 8 minutes. Of course you're not winning. But why, like, at that point I'm like, all right, let's at least get a touchdown, right? We can't not score a touchdown this game. Like, come on. And the Giants go down the field and have a turnover on downs after 12 plays. They go 62 yards, and they can't even finish the game with a touchdown. Yeah, I'm at a loss for words. That's how bad this offense was.
I think what's funny is that the Commanders played terribly, right? They were awful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They were terrible. And if you were on Twitter, like, Commanders fans were not happy. They were very upset. Why is Jaden Daniels not playing as well? Where's Terry McLaurin? All this stuff. Deebo Samuel, of course, was a bright spot, but they really didn't get a running game going. Their offense really wasn't moving too much. And their defense, honestly, was playing okay, but that was more to do with how bad the Giants' offense was, to be completely honest. So this was not the Commanders we saw in the playoffs last season, is all I'm going to say. And the fact that we couldn't score a touchdown against them when they were playing that badly, just absolutely terrible.
Anyway. Well, give credit to the Giants defense, because that is also another reason why the Commanders offense was so bad. And We'll talk about them on the other side of this break and how good they did, because they did play really well today. So I'll be right back, and we'll talk about the Giants defense.
There will be conversation outside here, talk radio and stuff, that people will say putting Jackson in will change things, that'll make the offense better. What do you make of that?
Russ did a great job distributing the ball when he can. They was doing a lot of good, pressures up the middle, things outside of that. We got to be better as a whole offense of trying to get, open with Russ. We had a lot of plays that needed to be made, myself included. Russ was putting the ball in some great spots. We just got to come up with the catches. Got to be open when he needs us to be open. And we take that as a whole offense. We all got to be better as a whole. So there's no change to, one person change, they ain't going to do better. We still got to all be better for ourselves.
Welcome back here into this episode, recapping a New York Giants 21-6 loss against the Washington Commanders. And right before the break, Alex mentioned how, the Commanders didn't look good today for their potential. And I think a lot of that is credit to the Giants defense. And the reason we didn't see points really from the Commanders, Alex. I mean, those at least final 7 points, the last touchdown didn't come until the fourth quarter. And that was because at that point, the Giants defense was torn to shreds. I mean, they were worn down at that point. That the 9 plays, 80-yard drive in 5 minutes where, it just seemed like play after play was first down after first down. Because the offense for the Giants just didn't stay on the field. I mean, the issue. And that just led to this area of nothingness for the nothingness for the offense then led into the defensive struggles. You lose Micah McFadden early on in this game, very early in this game, carted off, had the boot on his right foot. The x-rays were negative, according to, I think it was Mike Garafolo who reported that a few hours ago. So I don't know how badly that'll end up being. But I would say that middle of the field was really exposed on that final drive that ended up in a touchdown for the Commanders. I felt like Jaden Daniels had a lot of over-the-middle slant throws, and they were just caught like right in that area where either Bobby Okereke or Darius Muasu was covering. And it's like, how much can you do if you're Muasu? Yeah, it's Muasu, right?
Masua, I think.
Masua. Yeah, Masua. Anyway, we need Micah McFadden back is really the point. And the injury obviously looks serious. He couldn't walk off on his own power. Luckily, the x-rays were negative, but we have no idea to this point of how deep this injury kind of is and how deep of a hole this could lead for the Giants linebacker room. Because here's the thing, Alex, it's like you can generate so much pressure to the quarterback that you want on that D-line, but if receivers and tight ends, especially that linebackers will cover, get open, it doesn't even matter. Because then they can fire quickly, find a wide receiver over the middle of the field or within 5 to 10 yards that cornerbacks aren't guarding, and it's backup linebackers, and they get a first down. So that, yeah, I mean, what do you, anything about that linebacker kind of issue now with Micah McFadden's unfortunate injury?
I think it's going to be tough to replace him because it's a very weak area of the roster in terms of depth at that position. I would have to imagine they go, take someone from someone's practice squad or try to sign a free agent because they have nobody, basically. I mean, Masua is not terrible, but he's not really a starting caliber linebacker, and there's really nobody else besides him. So they're going to need to go out, find someone, and I expect that probably to happen in the next couple of days would be my best guess. I mean, on the defense generally, the pass rush was very good, close to my expectations of what I hoped to see. Corner was Flott was a little concerning at CB2. Did not have the best game, but he held his own of sorts against Deebo Samuel and whoever else he was up against, McLaurin sometimes. But Adebo looked good. Terry McLaurin was pretty much a non-factor when he was covering him. And the safeties, Javon Holland was making an impact, and Tyler Nubin as well. So I think there was those positives, which were good to see in the secondary. But this linebacking issue now is quite concerning. So I'm interested to see what route they go to replace, because they will need to do that swiftly and quickly for sure.
Absolutely. And not Micah McFadden, excuse me, Abdul Carter making an impact as well. Tipped a punt on special teams, had a half a sack in this game along with Kayvon Thibodeau, and then Brian Burns really making an impact in the first game with 2 sacks. Today saw the Spider-Man pose get used. So that was cool. That was fun while it lasted. And yeah, I mean, Jaden Daniels passing wise, 230 yards and a touchdown is pretty good to force Jaden Daniels to only throw 1 touchdown and under 250 yards passing. Running, yeah, obviously the dual threat that he is. He ran 11 times for 68 yards. And Krosky Merritt had 82 yards and touchdown. He was running over the Giants defense, for sure. He averaged like 8 yards a carry. So that was, unfortunate to watch. But I mean, yeah, made Terry McLaurin really a non-factor. So shout out to Paulson Adebo for that. 2 catches, 27 yards. But the main character today was Deebo Samuel. So that is certainly a weapon that the Commanders can use for the rest of the season, because it's not going to be CB1s that are guarding him. They'll be focused on Terry McLaurin. So good for the Commanders and their offense for getting that weapon in a Washington jersey. But besides that, I don't have a lot on the defense because they aren't the problem. I mean, it's the offense, and it starts with the offensive line. And when the offensive line doesn't play well, the offense stalls. We have 3 and outs. We have drives that are under 3 to 5 minutes, and we have a tired defense get on the field that by the second half, they're gassed. Especially by the fourth quarter, they are gassed. And then that just leads to points and a deficit that the Giants can't overcome. But, I mean, truly, Alex, how you kind of started this episode, or we started this episode, I mentioned what you texted me, which is that I can't do another season of this because it's deja vu. I mean, this is literally what it is. It's deja vu. We've seen this before. And I don't know how it's going to get fixed because, again, it's like hard to kind of add offensive linemen. But I think it's going to be,
I think what they have to try is put Greg Van Roten at center, slide in, I don't know who at guard, maybe even slide Illuminor over, put in Bo at tackle. There's options, but JMS cannot play. He's getting absolutely bullied, and it's just destroying the offensive line. Hopefully you get Andrew Thomas back, and then you figure it out from there. But that would be my immediate solution. And I know people are already calling for Russell Wilson's head. I'd give him week 2, but if the offensive line improves and he doesn't look a whole lot better, then there's a guy sitting on the bench that a lot of people are going to be calling for, and maybe I will too a week from today, but we'll have to wait and see on that.
That team right behind me, for everyone listening, there's a flag behind me. That's a New York Giants flag with their helmet on it. That team plays another game next weekend on Sunday against another NFC East opponent in the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's World. So, we talked about it, Alex and I, before the season, as everyone did, all Giants fans, was that this team's season is really going to depend on these first 2 games because the Commanders and the Cowboys, believe it or not, are 2 teams that are on the easier side of their schedule. You can start out 2-0 against these teams, and then, you're going to drop probably the next 2 because it's Chiefs and Chargers after that. But, at least starting off on the right foot can help this team out in the long way. But, I mean, now after losing this game, and especially if they lose next week, you could very much be looking at another 2-3 win season. And it would not be surprising. So we'll have to see how next week goes. Obviously, we'll be back with the preview on Friday for everyone, getting ready for that game in Dallas. But Alex, I'm scared with how this offense played. I'm very nervous to get embarrassed in Dallas for sure. When you don't score a touchdown,
offense looks a lot better than I thought it would, and I will say their defense is not good. So hopefully,
you're talking about the Cowboys.
Cowboys, correct? Yes.
Yeah. I was gonna say because I was like, this offense is very good. I was like, oh, look,
no.
Should we watch the same game today? Because we just talked about how bad they were. Yes, the Cowboys' offense against the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning Super Bowl champions, by the way, which they were trading blow by blow. Their offense looked very dominant. So it's going to be interesting to see when they face a defensive-heavy team that the New York Giants clearly are from what we saw today, because their offense has nothing. We're a defensive-heavy team, we being the New York Giants. I'm going to be interested how they kind of match up. But you got to score touchdowns to win football games. I mean, I'm going to, common freaking sense. I know, but you do. And the Giants just seem to not be able to do that. And that's a problem. So we'll have to see if they can fix that next week. But for right now, the Giants lose 21-6 against the Washington Commanders. Where do we go from here? Alex, you wanted to talk about that earlier. I think Brian Daboll in his presser after the game wouldn't answer questions directly if Russell Wilson starts again. There is no way after you sign him over the offseason that you make the move that quickly to Jackson Dart. But if we see another poor game, sorry, I'm coughing over here. If we see another poor game from Wilson, I think that Dart move could be happening a lot sooner than people might expect. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think by week 3, potentially. But that's only if it's really bad next week.
I really think it depends how this game goes. If we see another 6 points and they're like 17 for 37 or something atrocious like that from Wilson, and it's not all on the O-line, if they get their shit together, sorry, first curse in the episode. Took me 30 minutes, but I tried. If they get their stuff together, then then we might be seeing Dart earlier than a lot of people expect. And that's not only because Wilson has sucked. I mean, yeah, that would also be the case, but to try and save the jobs of the Giants general manager and Joe Schoen and head coach Brian Daboll. To say, John Mara, please give us one more year. Look at what we did. Look at who we got. Because then if Dart goes off, they have a chance of sticking around. All right. Thank you so much for listening or watching this episode of the Giant Take podcast. If you made it all the way through with how bad this game was and, like to hear us talk about it, then stick around, subscribe. We'll be here every week, regardless of results. If you're listening, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pandora, all those good places, follow us on Twitter at the Giant Take Pod, Alex on Twitter at Anoring23. I'm on Twitter at JoshSolo29. And thank you so much. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to another Giants season. We'll see you next time. Peace.